Trading futures and options on futures involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all traders and investors. Oftentimes in futures trading, you have a high combination of leverage and volatility. And although this could be an equation for opportunity, it's also an equation for risk. So be careful. Only fund your futures trading account with risk capital. My personal definition of risk capital is money I could afford to lose, doesn't change my lifestyle, or overly stress me out. As human beings, we make bad decisions when we're under stress, so be in a good spot. Remember, micro contracts could be friends. Take it easy on the day trade margins. You get plenty of leverage without maxing out on those day trade margins on a regular basis. We'll be taking a look at a real-time simulated live NinjaTrader trading platform today, and none of this should be construed as trade or investment advice. Past performance not indicative of future results. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Well, maybe it's the morning still. It's 12 o'clock here East Coast time, but good morning. My name is Jim Cagnina with NinjaTrader with another special edition of NinjaTrader Platforms Unleashed. Today, we're going to focus on the charts, right? There's a lot of really intense charting functionality here with the NinjaTrader platform. We're going to be using the PC-based version of the platform. Remember, there's three versions, right? You have the PC download version, you have the web version. Let me just go ahead and log in on a web browser. And then you have the mobile version as well. So today we're focusing on the downloadable version, the PC version, the award-winning version. And we're going to build some chart books from scratch and talk about some of the really cool functionality associated with the NinjaTrader charts. Joining me today behind the scenes is the fabulous Ed Jerkin. Ed is in the Chicago office, and he will be fielding any questions that you might have on any topic. Ed could do it all. He could answer anything. And he'll feed me some stuff too as we go through the process. So don't be shy. Feel free to get in there and ask brokerage-related questions, chart-related questions, data feed-related questions, whatever you want. Ed is the guy. In any event, let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to show you my desktop right now. And we've already done a couple Unleashed episodes. This one's going to be on the charts, right? And here's my setup right now. I have a control panel up here in the center. I already have a chart that's all configured up here in the lower left. And on the right-hand side, I had the market analyzer, which we covered a couple of weeks ago. So let's pretend we're going to set up a chart book from scratch, right? And this control panel up here, this rectangular thing, does an awful lot of stuff. And this is where we're going to start from. There's a button up here in the upper left, right next to the word NinjaTrader, which says new. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give me this drop-down menu. Right, and this drop-down menu has a lot of options, but we're going to go to chart because that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to click on chart, and it's going to bring me up a dialog box. All right, so there's a couple things I got to decide now. I know this doesn't look like much, but believe me, it's going to look like much in a second. So instrument, that's the first thing. And what the instrument is, really think of it as what market do you want to chart? Which markets are you interested in? And if you hit the download menu there, there'll be some presets, right? There'll be some presets there. And you could select one of them. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just type in a keyword, right? You could type in a symbol, ES as an example, and it'll give you some options. Are any of these what you want, Jim? And I'll say, yes, I want this ES futures. This is the E-mini S&P futures. And I'm going to go ahead and just click it twice, and then it's going to populate in the applied section. Remember, this is one chart I'm building right now. On the right-hand side are all my options. There's a lot of options to consider. And let's just go through them real quickly, and we'll start building these as we go. Price based on the last price, which is what we want because we want contemporary data. The chart type I have set at minutes, but if you go to the drop-down menu, you could pick tick charts, volume charts, range bars, seconds, minutes, days, weeks, months, years. Fibonacci's popular, Kagi, Renko, point and figure, line break, and volumetric. These are all the types that you could choose, right? So I'm going to go ahead and choose. I'm just going to leave it at a minute chart, right? Because we'll do a minute chart. Why not? Now, how many minutes? Well, that's in the value section. So how many minutes? I'm going to set to 10. Everybody knows I love 10-minute charts. So I'm going to put that as 10. Time frame, this is all pretty much, I'm going to leave this alone, except days to load. If you want more days to load, you could change it. Since this is an intra-day chart, 5 days is plenty for me. So I'm going to leave 5 days there as well, but you could change that if you'd like. Scrolling down to chart style, this is where I could change the sizes and the colors of my candles. Right now, the default for down bars is red. The up color for up bars is lime green. Name is candlestick. Don't need to change that. You could change the candle, the width of the candle, the color of the outline of the body, The same with the wick, right? So outline of the body of the candle and the wick, right? So we could change these colors. I could change the thickness and all of that stuff before I even set it up. You could always go back and edit it later. Not a big deal. Everything down here is more or less visual or color related. One thing you might want to keep in mind, display in data box. And if I turn that off, it just won't show the last price. You see that black little flag on the right, and on the chart behind this dialog box, you see that black. I want to keep that there so I can see visually. It helps me track where the last price is on the y-axis. So I'm going to hit way down on the bottom here. Another thing that's important, and we'll come back to this, is if you want to show your trades graphically represented on a chart, what trades you've made. If you want to see them on the chart, what time frame and what price, these will give you markers or text as well. So we'll go ahead and add, I don't know, we can just add it as a text and marker. And I'm going to hit OK. I could set it as a preset if I wanted to. In other words, click here, save it as Jim 10 minutes, and save it as a preset, but it's really usually not necessary. So I'm going to hit OK, and then you're going to have a chart. All right, a basic candle chart. Everyone's seen one of these before, and I have 10 minutes on the bottom. Now, the way to manipulate the axis is really easy. On the x-axis at the bottom, you just use your mouse, the left key, and hold it down. And then you could drag it back and forth, depending on how much time you want to see at the bottom. You want to expand it, you could expand it. You want to contract it. The same is true with the y-axis. Just grab it with your cursor and just kind of drag it down or drag it up, and that's how you move it around. It's pretty easy. Now, if you want to kind of just center it in general, this is a special tip you're going to get today. I'm going to hold this control key down. I'm going to grab the body of the chart with my mouse, and I'll just drag it around. You can see that little hand kind of grabbing it, and I can move it around. So that's the way to manipulate your view once you have your window set. So it's really easy. It's really customizable. And it's just remember, control, just to do kind of generally move it diagonally up and down any way you want it. Just click on the axis to drag up and down or back and forth, and that's going to give you the data that you would like. Okay, so this is a basic candle chart, right? It's a 10-minute candle chart. Now, what if, let's say that I would like to have a 30-minute candle chart, right? How would I do that? Well, I could duplicate this chart and change the time frame. But a really important trick, if you're going to use the same indicators on a 10-minute and a 30-minute, then create your indicators first, because you will only have to do it one time. And then when you duplicate, it automatically duplicates exactly what you're seeing. So before we duplicate, let's go ahead and add some stuff, right? And there's a couple different ways to get to the indicators on here. You can see these little buttons up here at the top. This little zigzag line up here says indicators, but it's a lot easier for me just to right click my mouse and get this drop down menu. When I get the drop down menu, then I literally have these options here, and we're just going to go, we're going to go to indicators, right? This is what we want to do. We want to go to indicators. I'm going to click on indicators, and it's going to give me all of the indicators that are available to me to add to the chart. And so there's a whole list of them here. I have a couple extra ones here that I got from the NinjaTrader ecosystem. So if there's something here that you don't see, my guess is you're going to be able to find it in the NinjaTrader ecosystem website, and you'll be able to really easily add it to your charts. So there's a couple on here you might not see because I've already done that. I've added them through that process. All right, so first thing I want to do, all right, I want to put an oscillator on my chart. And you could use whatever oscillator you want, RSI, MACD. I like the commodity channel index. That's right here. That's its CCI. So I'm going to select it. Once I select it, I have a couple options. Way at the bottom here, it says add. I could either click the add button, or I could simply just double click on the word CCI. I'll do that, double click, and you can see it comes down to the configured section, and it's saying, hey, Jim, configure your CCI the way you would like to do it. So, okay, I don't want a 14 period, I want a 20 period. So I'm going to change my oscillator to a 20 period oscillator, 20 period CCI. And you could do whatever indicator you put up, you could customize it this particular way. Input series is the E-mini S&P 10-minute. Calculate bar on close. Well, I'm going to change this because I want it to calculate every tick. I don't want to wait for a 10-minute candle to close and wait for the results. I want to see it moving in real time. So I'm going to hit on each click. on each tick. I'm sorry. And then these are all visual things here. One important visual option that you have is panel. I'm going to create this in a new panel. So the candle chart right now is in panel 1, right? By creating it on a new panel, it's going to put it at the bottom in its own separate area on the chart. So I'm going to leave that as new panel, and I'll keep the price marker up there. You could not put the price marker on if you don't want, or you could have it on, and that's just going to show another marker on the right hand side of your chart. Visible, if maybe you don't want to show it, you want to hide it for some temporary reason. I don't know. Now here are all your lines and all your colors. This is all straightforward formatting. You can change the zero line to let's make it red. I want to see when it crosses the zero line. That seems kind of important. So I'll change it to red. And you could do it for all of the different levels on the CCI, and then you could set one up for 200. You could set one up from 100, minus 100, minus 200. Those are popular levels, so that's why they're on there. The CCI itself, again, you could change it. We'll keep it gold. Why not? We'll keep it solid. If you want to make it a dash or a dot or anything else, you could do it by just hitting that drop-down menu under Style. Plot, you can do triangles, you could do boxes, you all sorts of stuff here. So you could experiment around with how you want it to look. We're going to keep it simple as a line, and I'm just going to hit apply and OK. And so that's how, again, probably a little harder to see. So let's go ahead and correct it. All right. This is part of the experiment you'll go through when you set up your charts for the first time. How do you want it to look? And then what works for you visually? So I'm going to go back to indicators, right click, go back to indicators, select CCI. And you know what? I'm going to make this a darker color. Let's make it, I don't know, make it blue. And then we'll change the width to 2. That should really pop for us. Let's see what happens. There it is. All right. So now we got some. All right. So we have an oscillator. So far, so good. Let's add a moving average. I don't know. Let's add a simple moving average. So again, right click. I'm going to go to indicators, and we're going to look for a moving average. And we could either do an exponential, a simple. There's all sorts of different kinds of moving averages here with the NinjaTrader software. So let's find simple here. Simple SMA, they call it, right? SMA, simple moving average. I'm going to double click, and I'm going to add an instance in the configured section. And I'm going to say, you know what? I want this to be a 6-period moving average. This is going to be my fast moving average. I'm going to change calculate to on each tick because I want to see it in real time. I'm going to change my color to red because red is fast, right? Red is like flash. All right. I'm going to hit apply and OK. Now notice I didn't change it to its own panel. I kept it on panel 1. And so you can see it overlaid onto the chart itself. It's on panel 1 right now. I can change that, which we're going to do in a second. But before we do that, let's put a slow moving average so we can see a moving average cross. I'm going to right click again. I'm going to go to indicators, and I'm going to add another instance of SMA. I'm going to scroll down, SMA, double click again. And look what happened in the configured section. Another instance of SMA. Now it thinks default is 14. Which it is, but I want to change it to 26 because I like the 26, the 6. This is personal preference. This is where your technical analysis skills are going to come in. On each tick, we're going to change that. We'll change that as well, and we're going to make the color something different, right? We'll make it. I don't know. We'll make it. I don't know if I want to make it blue. We'll make it forest green. We'll make it forest green, or we could make it gray. Whichever one we want. So I'll hit apply and OK. So now I have this another moving average up here as well, right? And you might say, oh, Jim, that's kind of cluttered. You got red, you got green, you got red, you got green. That's okay. I have a solution for that. I'm going to go ahead back here to my indicator section, and I'm going to make the moving average cross in its own panel. So again, I'm going to go to panel. I'm going to select one. Make sure you always select it. And I'm going to say name input series, new panel. So I just created a third panel. Now, when I click on this next moving average, because I want the whole cross to be in the same panel, I'm going to go and you're going to see, no, you know what? I got to hit I'm sorry. I got to hit the apply button. And it created that new panel at the bottom that you could see. Now I'm going to hit the next one, and it should pick it up. It does, 3. So this is my third panel. And I'm going to hit apply there. And I move the moving average cross to its own panel. right? You might want this to be panel 2 instead of panel 3, or whatever. Or you might want it overlaid on the chart in different colors. It's totally up to you. So right now I have the CCI, Commodity Channel Index, and I have a moving average cross at the bottom, starting to build a technical analysis basis here. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving here because we've got a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot more stuff to talk about. Let's go ahead and create, I don't know, let's create let's put some daily pivots in. Everybody loves daily pivots. I love daily. This is a Tom Schneider favorite, by the way, is daily pivots. And see if I could find them easily. They might be under daily pivots or they might be under pivots, but I'm going to find them. Probably under pivots. There they are. Double click. I added to the configured section. I'm not going to change anything except for, well, it doesn't even matter here because it's a daily pivot. It's based on yesterday's action. So you don't have to worry about bar closed or each tick. And I'm going to hit apply. I'm not going to change the color of the pivot, R1, R2, R3, S1, S2, S3. Hit OK, and then they will populate on the chart. And you can see the pivot right here is pretty close to, well, it's right there. It says PP, pivot point. And then if you scroll, you'll see where S1 is. You'll see where R1 is. Pretty straightforward. Let's keep moving here. Let's keep moving. I want to add a couple of more things. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to hit indicators. And this is kind of an important thing for me. I'm going to add the order flow volume profile. And if you have the order flow version of the software, you'll have access to it. If you don't, you won't, but you could always get it if you want. Just reach out to Ed or anybody else for that matter your representative at NinjaTrader, and they'll help you. Order flow volume profile. I'm going to double click again. Well, we'll let my mouse catch up. There we go. Order flow is there. I'm going to highlight it to active. Whoopsie, I clicked too many times. Slow it down, Jim. We just need one instance. Order flow volume profile under the configured side. I promised that I was going to go slow before we started. And here I am, just I'm going too quick. I'm going to slow it down. Order flow volume profile. Again, calculate on each tick. And it's going to give me kind of like a market profile. It's going to give me a distribution of volume on the left-hand side of the chart. And it's pretty cool. I'm not going to change. The only thing I'm going to change is ticks per level. I'm going to go ahead and make that a 4, just so we can see it a little easier. And I'll explain what we're seeing once I post it up there. Everything else I'm going to keep the same for now. And there's colors, and there's opacity, and there's profile widths, and all of this stuff. But let's go ahead and keep this the same as it is. And most of the stuff in the middle here, where you see all the time zones color coded, you probably won't ever use those. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. At the very bottom, you're going to have lines. You could change colors, like, point of control and all that stuff. But let's just go default with colors, hit apply, and OK. And what happened here? Well, it created my histogram bar, right? My volume profile histogram bar on the right-hand side. And it's color coded, right? Point of control is the longest volume. And all of this is telling me is how much volume is traded at any given price range since the session began. And right now, this is, again, the longest histogram bar, if you will, or sideways column is called the point of control. The dark blue area, this area is just called the value area. This is 1 standard deviation worth of volume. And the light blue is prices above the value area. I know it's not a very fancy name, and you guessed it. The light blue below here is prices below the value area. So this is usually not usually, but oftentimes a bell-shaped curve, a normal distribution. Today it's a little bit, choppy, I would say. But this is another indicator that I like to use a lot. So that's and again, you can go back and change color. You could change all sorts of stuff by just going right click, go to the indicators, and then you can experiment. You can't go wrong with experimentation as long as you're not experimenting with real trades, of course. And if you wanted to make the histogram bar smaller, you could change ticks per level to a smaller number, let's say 2. And then scrolling down here, profile alignment is left. I have the volume profile on the left-hand side of my screen. Profile width is 60. Let's make it not so big. Let's make it 30. And then profile opacity, here's the one you might want to mute your colors a little bit. And we'll go with 65 on that. Again, kind of random. I'm going to hit apply. Oops, I went the wrong way with the opacity. Sorry. Well, it actually looks pretty good. Let's leave it like that. Lastly, I want to show one more setting here. At the very bottom, it says show volume labels. You see that way at the bottom, show volume labels. I'll click on that. I'll hit apply and okay. And what it does is it gives me actual volume for each histogram, right? It gives me actual volume for each histogram in the volume profile. So I can kind of see, is this a popular price point? Is it not a popular price point? How much volume? And what's the difference between histogram bar to histogram bar, which is equally as important. And as you stretch it, you get more of the data. So that's a really kind of cool trick. So that's how you kind of add that as well. Let's add a couple of more things. And again, when you get into it, and you could put whatever indicators and whatever things up you want. But let's go ahead and go through the indicators again as well. And I'm going to put another kind of popular thing. Again, this is in the order flow family, if you have that version of the software. And it's going to be called order flow volume weighted average price. And if you follow Anthony Crudele at all, you'll realize this is something I want. And I'm going to go ahead and add it and configured. On the right-hand side now, it's time for me to configure. So what are we up against here? We have standard deviation bands. That's our first thing we got to decide. Do we want to have all 3 standard deviation bands around the VWAP? Do we want to have 2 around the VWAP? We'd want to have 1 around the VWAP. Let's just do 1 to keep it simple. So I'll change it to 1. And now I just have 1 area to have to worry about. Standard deviation area color is powder blue. And then again, don't forget, on each tick, we want to cancel on each tick. And then again, these are all just color options here. So let's hit apply and okay and see what that looks like. And there we have it. It looks like a Bollinger Band kind of, doesn't it? I could make the shading a lot lighter. I could make it different colors. I could change all of that stuff. This is just default out of the door, so to speak. Let's see what else we could add. We don't want it. I don't like it to be too cluttered, but a couple other pieces of information I think is important, including net change display. So I'm going to click twice on net change display. It's highlighted down here in configure, and then I want to see my net change on my chart. I want to see it. You can see it in percent. That's a Tom Schneider favorite and a Mike Burke favorite. Points, ticks, whichever you want to choose. Since we're trading futures, I'm going to put it in points. And then again, on price change or on each tick, either one here will be the same thing. So this is all good. I'm not going to change the color. I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to hit OK. On the upper right-hand side, you see this is the change from the previous day's close. And you can see it moving in pretty good. Lastly, but not leastly, let's see if I have the timer bar. I'm going to PQRT time tick counter. I might not have it uploaded here. Timer, maybe tick counter, timer. I don't see timer on here. Let's go up to daily. We'll find it if it's on here. Okay, so that's probably an ecosystem add-on. It's a countdown timer. And not seeing it on the list, which means I probably haven't added it from the ecosystem. So in any event, we're going to pass over it. That's okay. It just will count down the bars, right? It'll count down the candles till the start of the next candle. Now, the other thing you could do also, consider this too. Up here under the candle style button on the upper left, we'll click on that, and you could increase the spacing or decrease the spacing between the actual candles. And then you could increase the bar width or decrease the bar width. This is kind of a shortcut. And I'll just click on that really quickly there. And it's really easy to do. So again, totally customizing it right now. So, all right, what do I want to do next? Like we started talking about earlier, I have a 10-minute chart. And let's say I also am looking at, I don't know, a 30-minute chart, right? And I want to see them side by side. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to position it a little bit better on my screen. Ignore the backdrop for a second. And then I'm going to right click in the upper bar here. It says duplicate window. Right click in the upper control bar here, duplicate window. And it's going to open up the exact same window. So now I don't have to build all my indicators over again. I don't have to go through all of that rigmarole. It's already done for me. And now the only thing I have to do is change my time frame. And there's a little time frame box on the top. Just hit the drop-down menu and we'll change it to 30-minute. So it maintained all of my stuff, volume profile, order VWAP. We have the pivots on there. We have the net change. We have CCI, everything. And that's the only thing I had to do to change, to create a second chart. Now I could move these around just like you would any windows. I could move them around. If you have multiple monitors, you could put some on one monitor, some on the other, and I could continue to duplicate. I could add a 60-minute, I could add a daily, whatever you want. You could continue to do it through that technique. Now, I'm going to show you another thing I like to do also before, if you're just using a one window chart layout. Okay, here's one window chart layout, and you see a tab at the bottom. This little tab at the bottom says E-mini S&P September 2023, and I could right-click that and say duplicate in a new tab. I'm going to do that. I'm going to duplicate it in the new tab, and then again change it to 30-minute. So now on the tabs at the bottom, I've got a 10-minute, a 30-minute, and let's say I want to do a 60-minute. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing again. It's really, really easy. Duplicate in a new tab, change it to 60, and now I have 3 of those charts, same contract, same everything on one tab. Now, here's where it gets really cool too. Let's say, hey, you know what? I like the 10-minute, but I want to see another market. You know, all right, E-mini is great, Jim, but there's a lot of other markets, right? So I'm going to go back to my 10-minute, and I'm going to right-click, and I'll say duplicate again. Duplicate in a new tab. It's going to duplicate it, right? And let's say I want to put a gold chart up. So I'm just going to type in the word gold. This drop-down menu is going to give me, I typed it in the upper left. I'm sorry, I should have went a little slower. And I'm going to look for the futures contract. There's other options here, but I'm going to pick GC futures, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on that guy. And now I have a 10-minute in gold, right? And so I could add all of this stuff. Now I could do the same technique if I was duplicating windows outside of the tab structure. If I just wanted to duplicate them on a window by window basis, it's really, really easy to do. So once you do all the heavy lifting on your chart, you have all the settings that you want. If they're consistent between time frames, then that's how you would do it. Now, maybe you're going to have another type of chart on a tab, which is fine. You just click that little plus sign down there, and you can build a new one. Does this look familiar? Yeah, we started this earlier today. And again, let's just go ahead and make it E-mini S&P. Let's highlight it. And this time, let's make it a daily chart. And let's make it, instead of a candle, let's just do, let's do a line on close chart. Let's just do a line on close chart. Keep it simple. Oop, I hit cancel instead of what I should have done. Instead was hit OK. My bad. Let's do it again. I got to slow my roll a little bit. Again, we're going to go type this. It remembered I tried to change it to day. Value 1. That's good because it's only for 1 day. And then on candlestick, again, we didn't even go over these yet. Oh, these are pretty cool. Line on close. We didn't go over mountain. We didn't go over open, high, low, close, Kagi. But let's go ahead, line on close, and hit OK. And there we have a line on close. So again, you don't have to keep the same style. You could create something totally new. This is just puts a dot every day where the market closes. This is kind of a chart that a lot of folks like to use as well. So that's how you would do that. Let me go back here. Kind of shrink this up a little bit. Here they are side by side with tabs on the bottom here. And some people would like, all right, I'm going to have like 2 charts. I'm going to have all of mine with one market on one, all of them with another market on another. Other folks would say, hey, I want all my 10-minute charts on one series, or hey, I want all my daily charts on one series, and all of that stuff. I'm going to minimize these and just look at my primary layout for a second, which is right here. And I want to point out that the way I prefer to do it, I link my charts to my market analyzer. And the way you do that is on the upper right-hand corner, there on the market analyzer, there's a thing that's called instrument link, and you click on it and you got to pick a color. I'm going to pick orange. It's already there. And then on the chart that I want to link, I'm going to also go to this second bar here and say instrument link. And again, I'm going to select the same orange. So now for every single chart that I have linked that way, and I have the first 4 linked that way on my platform, I'm just going to change all 4 of the charts by clicking on a different market. So let's click on the micro, E-mini, I don't know, NASDAQ. Click on that. And all 4 of those charts at the bottom, you'll see have changed. This is a weekly, daily, 30-minute, 10-minute. They all change by linking the charts to the market analyzer. Does that make sense to everybody? Super, super cool. Now, the next one, too, is an instrument link where you could interval link, right? So if you had several charts with the same color, you could say, hey, I want to change them all to a 10-minute, or I want to change them all to a 30-minute. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to change this to red as an example. And then maybe we'll just pick a chart that we already had. We just created, right? Didn't we just create something? Let's get this guy up here. And we'll go ahead and shrink this up a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Bear with me. And you'll see this dot here, this very first interval square. I'm going to change that to red also. And that's going to sync with my primary chart in the background as a 10-minute, right? And let me just move this side by side for a second. I know I got a lot of stuff going on. Apologize for that, but let's focus on the charts themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to a 30-minute. And you can see now that it's time frame linked, it changed this one to a 30-minute also. So linking is kind of important. If you have minimal real estate and you don't have 3 or 4 monitors to show all your charts all at the same time. Go ahead and minimize that. Go back to our main event here. Let's change this back to a 10-minute chart. Oh, by the way, we're going to get to drawing tools in a second. And sometimes I forget to delete my Fibonacci lines from previous days. It's a drawing tool. So I'm going to go to this pencil, scroll all the way to the bottom. These are where all your drawing tools are. And we're going to cover these in a second. I'm just going to click remove all drawing objects. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to say, yes, I'm sure I want to do this. And then I hit that button and they're all gone. So I'm starting from a clean slate from a drawing tools point of view. And so let's go ahead and get some drawing tools in here, right now. Fibonacci is the one we were just talking about. Pencil, Fibonacci retracement. Or you could hit the F8 key on your keyboard if you want to use your keyboard. And I'm going to click on it. Now it activates that pen. You see that pencil or pen? I'm going to pick where I want the Fibonacci to start. Click once, drag my mouse down to where I want it to end, and then I've drawn that line. So just click and click once I activate the Fibonacci tool, right? And it applies it right there. If you want to modify the tool, you want to modify your prices, you could simply just highlight it and move it around. It's simple as that. If you want to customize it, you could do that as well. I'm going to double click on the fib, and you can see I've customized an awful lot of stuff. But here it says Fibonacci retracements, and I could customize it. In addition to just the anchor color, it says levels here. Now here's something that's a little bit maybe not 100% intuitive, but you see that price level here? If I see how it changes when I put my mouse on it, edit price levels, I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give me the fib levels that I have up here right now. I could change these, or I could get rid of some of them, or I could edit them any way that I'd like to. I'd like. There's an example. Let's say I wanted to add a 75%. I'm just making this up. Let's just add a 75%, and then you could double click on it, highlight it, make it 75. It's visible. Put whatever color you want on it. Hit OK, apply, and it's going to throw that 75 in there. Now it's right next to the 76.4, so maybe me picking 75 wasn't the greatest idea. But you get the point. So you could customize all of these price levels, and you could delete price levels you're not interested in, and so on and so forth. So once you do that, you hit OK. And then once you're happy with the colors and everything, you could also, if it's different than the default, you could hit that template button, and then you on the lower right-hand side here, and you could hit save or reset. If you hit save, it's going to ask you, what do you want to call it? And then do you want to save it as your default? So in the future, it's always that way. You never have to change anything. So you could save default that way. Remember, template, save as default, and it'll ask you, sure you want to change it? I don't want to change it, so I'm going to say no, but that's how you would do that. All right, that's the fib tool. There's some other tools here that are pretty good. There's trend lines, which are pretty straightforward. And let's just throw a trend line in. I'm going to select it. And then, I don't know, we'll just kind of click and draw a loosely fitting trend line right here. It's really simple to do. And then to highlight it, if you want to move it around, double click on it if you want to change the colors as an example. Instead of crimson, instead of dots, instead of 2 is the width. However you want to do it, you can certainly do that as well. Let's shoot this over to a 10-minute real fast. We'll give us some better. Here's my trend line. I don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and delete it. Just highlight it and delete it. Really, really simple. If you want to draw a horizontal line, here's another kind of trick. I'm going to draw that line right from the top of the opening range, and I'm going to bring it out there. And you might say, well, Jim, that's not too straight. Let's just see where the top of this candle is. I'm just going to use my middle mouse button. The middle mouse button, I just click on a candle. It gives me all the stats, by the way, right? The day, the time of the candle, the open of high, low, close, which are the 4 points of a candle, the volume, and all sorts of other statistics associated with whatever type of technical analysis studies you've placed on your chart. So I'm going to look at the close of this candle. It's 136.75. So I'm going to double click 136.75. I want to make this 136.75, 136.75, because I want to match it up exactly. And then I'm going to go ahead and make the other side of the line the same, the end time. So it's going to be perfectly straight. And then I could change it when I want it to start or end. I'm happy with that already. So I'm going to hit apply and okay. I straightened out my line. It's makes a little bit more sense now. It's not crooked, and I could use that in the future to make trade decisions if I want. So it's a really handy tool. Double click on things, and it usually gives you a property box. It usually gives you a property box where you could customize whatever you want. Other options, you could draw rays, you could draw horizontal lines, vertical lines, paths. We already talked about the fib tools a little bit. Andrew's pitchfork, Gann fan, regression channel, a trend channel. All of this stuff is pretty good. Regular geometric shapes. I draw rectangles all of the time. And then you see order flow volume profile. Well, what is that? You just already added it to your chart a little while ago. Let's see what happens when I click on it. I'm going to click on it. And let's say I only want the order flow volume profile from the opening range to now, right? So now what it does is it cuts off the pre-market, right? I already have the other one. It cuts off the pre-market and just shows me the volume profile that happened since the underlying regular trading hours started at the New York Stock Exchange hours. And that's kind of how I just put it the exact same candles I wanted to cover. And there it is. Now, obviously, I have to color code it to make it look a little bit better. But for those of I get that question a lot. Hey, Jim, how do you just do order flow volume profile for this period of time? And that's how you do it. Really, really simple. I'm going to right click again. That brings up another thing. Data series. We're going to go to data series, right click data series, and trading hours. Remember, in futures trading, most markets, not all markets, but most markets are 23 hours continuous, right? Usually 6 o'clock the night before East Coast time, all the way to 5 o'clock at the end of the day with an hour break, right? So in that sense, there's no it's all regular trading. There's no irregular trading hours. It's all regular trading hours. There's no extended trading hours in most futures markets. But some folks would only like to track stock index futures as an example and take a look at what, different types of time frames. And on this trading hours thing, you could kind of do the drop-down menu and you could just change. You could change it, say, hey, I want to, this is the default, right? Globex index futures, regular trading hours, that's the difference. But let's say if I wanted to just say CME Group, US regular trading hours, that's what RTH stands for. You highlight that, And then it won't show you the pre-market. It'll just show you, I'll hit apply. I'll move this out of the way real quickly. It'll just show you when the regular, the open of the New York Stock Exchange going forward. So that's the change I just made there. And you can see it down here. You can see, put your crosshairs here at the bottom, 9:30 to 9:40 was the start time for that very first candle, which makes sense. And again, right click, data series, right? And you could just go to trading hours. I'm going to change it back from CME US Index Futures regular trading hours. And we could make it, well, we're not going to make it irregular, but I'm just going to use instrument settings because that's the default. It's really as simple as that. Hit apply and OK. Oh, I found my timer, by the way. My timer appeared. Let's go to right click. Let's go to indicators and see what that timer was called. It's on the lower right-hand side. Bar timer. That's why I missed it. Bar timer. Okay, so I have the bar timer here configured, and not really much to change other than on each tick. Make sure you always change this on each tick. Hit apply and OK. Now, that's pretty straightforward. There's another thing that I really want to show you that I forgot about. When you add an indicator, let's go back to the original thing we made. It gives you all of this. See the text way at the top, upper left corner, all the way across the top? That's giving you a whole, telling you what you have applied to the chart. If you don't want to see that, you can get rid of it. It's not hard to do. You're just going to go back to your indicators. And when that opens up, you're going to go ahead and just pick one. Let's go, I don't know, let's go to pivots, right? And you're going to see a thing called label. This is also maybe not 100% intuitive, but if you think about it, it is. On label, it says pivots, and that's what it shows up on your screen. If I just highlight that and cancel it, see that pivot up there, the word pivot, hit apply, it goes away. So that's how I get rid of if I don't want to be reminded of all of the stuff I have on my chart. I get that question a lot. It's, CCI, same thing. Label, just delete it. Same with them. I'm going to leave the moving average crosses there because I always forget those. Pivot, I already took off. Order flow volume profile, we'll let that populate. Again, we're going to find label, delete it. Order flow VWAP. And we're going to find label, delete it. And then net change, label, delete it, hit apply, and OK. The upper left hand of my chart is now clean. That's how you do that. It's really, really easy. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What else could we add to this thing? I'm going to look at my notes here. I think one of the things we want to talk about also, there's an alert section right here as well. You could add, again, right click on the workspace. Things are going to pop up for you. I'm going to hit alerts, and you can set alerts. We're not going to go too deep into alerts because you can do a lot of stuff, including triggering trades if the market does a certain thing. What are we looking at? We're looking at gold right now. 1934 is the price. So I'm going to keep all this stuff at the top general the same. We're going to do a simple alert. I want a pop-up box to come up when gold breaks 1935 even, right? So I'm going to hit this add button here. This is my condition. I'm going to create a condition, and I'm going to create a condition off of this, and it's going to be a numeric value. See this box up here, numeric value, and I want to say crosses above, right? Crosses above. And so that's let's see, and then numeric value down here. I'm sorry. First condition is gold 10-minute, cross above. Second condition is numeric value. And then I'm going to put my property here. Let's call it 1935. Oh, let's give ourselves a 01. All right. Hit OK. But what do I want to happen when that happens? Well, down here under actions, I'm going to hit add. And I'm going to say show a pop-up dialog box. Let's just do that. And instead of, right, we could have done some other stuff, but I'm just going to leave it there as well. I mean, you could add a second action as well, including, submit an order, right? I could send an order. I could send a market order, a limit order, whatever I want. If that condition happens, then I could just hit, set it up and let the machine do all the work. So we'll hit apply. Oopsie, I have to select an account. Oh, I didn't want to submit an order. Let's remove it, hit apply and OK. And now we have an alert. So you'll get a pop-up menu that says, "Hey Jim, by the way, your gold hit your price. Do you want to do something? You want to pay attention? Wake up, get some more coffee, whatever you want to do." All right. So that's the alerts. Again, experiment with those. You could do a lot more with the alerts, including do some trade management, which is pretty cool as far as I'm concerned. Let's create a correlation chart. I'm gonna create this one from scratch. So we're gonna go new, and we're gonna create a chart. And let's just say we want to track the yield curve, right? I want to see the difference between the 2-year yield futures and the 30-year yield futures. So my first contract, I'm going to look for the. I'm sorry, we'll do 2 and 10. I'll look for 2-year. Oopsie, I didn't do that right. Let's remove it. Don't click so fast. 2-year yield, 2-year futures. I'm going to double click there. It's going to put it up. So now, again, just treat this like any ordinary chart. Let's do, instead of candlesticks, so it's not so messy, we'll change it to line on close as an example. And everything else I think is good based on last, type day, value 1. This is all looking good. Days to load, 365, line on close. And colors for this thing, let's make it red. I'm going to hit OK. Oh, there's my alert, folks. You see it? This is the alert I sent. So we achieved our price target. The alert was triggered. If I wasn't setting up a chart, we'd see this pop up. So now I have my line on close chart. Right, it's just red. The yield's on the right hand side. That's how these are. You could trade yield at the CME Group, and it's a 2-year. So just to make it easier on my eyes, though, I'm going to add some text here and just say 2-year yield, and then double click again. Let's make it red. We'll color code this thing so we're not confused. This is the 2-year yield, and I'm going to squish this over here. We'll put this over here. Now I want to add the 10-year on the exact same chart, right? I'm going to add the 10-year on the exact same chart. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to data series again. And it says, "Hey, Jim, you already have the 2-year up here. What are you doing?" It's like, well, you know what? I'm going to add a 10-year now. Go 10. Look for that 10-year micro yield. Double click. And I'm going to make the same adjustments, except I'm going to make this one, I don't know, we'll call it blue, right? The 10-year will be blue instead of red, so we don't have anything mixing it up. It remembers line on close. That's all good. I'm going to hit apply and OK. Now, there we go. So it's a comparison. It's on the top, it's on the bottom. Maybe you want to have it in the same panel. Remember that. Remember how to put stuff on the same panel. This is panel 1. This is panel 2. We're going to right click back up here. Oopsie, I'm sorry. Data series, right click, data series. And then for the 10-year, I don't want it on panel 2. I want to put it on panel 1. And there we have it. And since it's an overlay, and since it's a true overlay where the prices are measured in the same units, this is really easy to do. And the last thing I'm going to do, because I don't know what that blue line is. Tomorrow I won't remember. What was that blue line? I don't know. Let's go to my text, and we'll call it 10-year yield. You can do this, by the way, with any 2 markets that you would like to compare. And I'm going to open that up, and we're going to go ahead and color code that blue. And now I have the start of what's becoming a pretty darn professional looking comparison chart. 2-year, 10-year, all on one space. But what's the correlation between these two? I don't know, but we could figure it out. Let's go to indicators. Let's see if there's a thing called correlation on here. And there is. There it is. Double click on correlation. Now I have a little bit of work to do because it's asking me, what do you want to correlate the 2-year with, right? Input series is 2-year. Now, I want it to be 10-year. So that's the instrument, right? I'm going to put that instrument up there. I'm going to put 10. I'm going to make it exactly the same, just like the ticker. 10 YR space JUN 23. And then I'm going to change this to calculate on each tick. Remember, calculate on each tick. I want real-time data here. And I'm going to change my line here. We'll put this in a new panel at the bottom so we don't kind of skew everything up. We'll make it green. We'll make it 2. And then we'll hit apply and OK. So there's my correlation line. So this is calculating the correlation between these 2 instruments that I've already have. Let's say you have 2 other instruments. Let's say you have the E-mini S&P and the NASDAQ, and you have them in different panels or even on the same panel. That's okay. You just have one of the market's x-axis on the left-hand side of the screen and the other on the right-hand side. You could do that. And then you could add the correlation. And then you could see what the correlation is. Today, it's not really correlated, right? It's 0.20. These 2 things aren't really correlated a lot, suggesting that there's a move afoot. Something's different. Something's changing. One of them is becoming stronger than the other one. So that's how you do the correlation. And this has come in handy for sure, the correlation tools as you're building your charts. All right, last thing. How are we doing? How are we doing on questions? I know we're going way over time, and that's why I'm going so fast. I knew this was going to be a long one. Again, get any questions in there to add. Anything you want me to cover that I haven't covered yet, throw them in, because I'm going to show you one more basic thing that you might want to consider, and that is you could trade from the charts. We're going to have an in-depth trading from the charts event in a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. But just generally speaking, there's this egg beater up here, right? It's the egg beater button, I call it. It looks like how those old-fashioned things. Your grandma would put the thing in the paddles where you spin it out. You mash the mashed potatoes. That's what this is. I'm going to click on that. You could have three different areas. You could have it off, you could have it on, or you could have it on and it's hidden. So we'll go ahead and hit on. Well, I want to see it. I'm going to turn it on. It's this right-hand panel here. It does an awful lot of stuff. We're going to go into detail on it. But now you could actually place trades from the charts themselves. So I just wanted to show you how to do that. I like to do it with the chart trader on, but hidden. And I'm going to go ahead and right-click my mouse, and it'll give me a few options. Buy limit, buy market on touch, stop market, sell stop market, sell stop limit. I'm going to do just a buy limit. I'm going to click on it, and it placed the order, right? So you see that little thing there. Now it's mimicked on the trading ladder as well. You could see it on all the different places on the actual platform. You can see it in your orders tab in the upper left-hand side, and you see it's working, right? I'm not filled yet. And so we'll just open this up a little bit here so I can get a better picture of it. And we could see market's trading at 886. It's moving around a lot. I have a limit order to buy a contract at 872. This is just a random trade, folks. Do not follow live at home. If I want to cancel and replace this order, I could just grab it with the mouse, move it up to whatever price I want, and let it go. That's a cancel and replace. Now I've just changed my order, which you can see now on the trading ladder because it's within reach, to 84.50. There we go. We just got filled. So now the chart's telling me, if I don't have my dome up or anything else up, say me, hey, dude, Jim, you're long one contract. It's green, it's color coded. If I was short, it would be red and I would be short. But since I'm long one contract, remember in futures, you could sell before you buy. You could buy before you sell. It's fungible that way, right? It's depending on what your point of view is. If you feel like the market's going to go down, then you're going to sell. If you feel like the market's going to go up, then you're going to buy. So I put that order in. And to complete that trade ID, of course, I want to put a profit target in, and it's really easy to do. Again, I'm just going to pick a price. Again, don't follow home. I'm just randomly doing this. Throw a limit order in at 1901. I want to put my stop loss down here just to make sure I'm protected on the downside. And that's the anatomy of every trade in the world right there. Position, profit target, stop loss. I did it that quick on the chart trader. I love the chart trader. I know a lot of people like the trading ladder as well with the Superdome, which is super awesome. And we're going to cover that, I think, next week. But just as a general matter, that's how you would do that. And again, you could move these around, just grab it and move it with your mouse. You could change the lot size if you want by clicking on the number. I'm not going to do that. And that's it. So we've covered creating a new chart, duplicating charts, chart types, right? Chart types. We didn't really go into detail in Renko or Akagi or Hakanashi, but let me just let's do one more new one here. Let's go to charts again. Select E-mini S&P. Well, see what happens here on your menus. It remembers the last stuff you did. It's like, all right, these are your favorites. These are what you like to do. So we're going to do that. And so when I go to type, there's tick charts. We should spend a couple minutes on this. I know we're in double overtime, but that's okay. We have tick charts, volume charts, range bars, second, minute, day, week, month, Hakanashi, Kagi, Renko, point and figure, line break, and volumetric. These are all the things that you were going to do. A lot of people like tick charts, so we're going to select tick charts. And a lot of people like 500, is it 512 or is it 516? I think it's 512 is a value. So we'll add it that way. Now, the display, how do I want it to display? Do I want it to display as a candle? It's up to you. You don't have to, but I'll go ahead and let it display as a candle, and I'll hit OK, and it'll create a tick chart. Give it a second because it's loaded here. So each candle, again, it represents 512 ticks. Same thing with the range bar, where you would define how many points you would want your chart to move. Before you generated a brand new candle. But this is a tick chart. It's pretty popular. And we get an awful lot of people asking us about tick charts. And you can do all the same technical analysis here on this chart that you could draw trend lines. You could add Fibonacci retracements. You could add moving averages. You could do all of that stuff. Simply right click, indicators, choose what you want. Now, there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, you got Bollinger Bands. You have MACDs. You have Darvis boxes, you have Donchian channels. These are a lot of the more popular ones, but then you have some of the less popular ones as well. I have the Ikamuku Cloud, which was a plugin from the actual ecosystem. I encourage everybody to go to that NinjaTrader ecosystem. There's so much good stuff there. Just start searching around for stuff. You're going to find some good stuff. Just like those guys at American Pickers. They're in that barn. They're digging around through a whole bunch of stuff, and they find the one thing they like. That's just like the ecosystem. There's so much great stuff there. So Cartland channels, you name it. Technical analysis is deep and heavy. I know we didn't have enough time to go too much deeper than that, but I think we covered a lot of ground. So having said all that, I would like to express my appreciation to my colleague and sidekick Ed Jerkin for sitting and listening to me go on and on for an hour. And thanks, I appreciate it. Appreciate your help on that, as well as to Mission Control. In the meantime, remember, we still have bars closing this afternoon with Tom Schneider. It's going to be hot. It's going to be a great show, 3:15 East Coast time. Having said all that, please, folks, most important message of the day. Be safe out there and be good to each other. Thanks for coming.